Notice over the years that there are lots of questions about Christmas, and so I'm going to take a moment and answer some silly ones. First question is, were the Magi the first paparazzi? And the answer is yes, because they were the first to relentlessly follow a star. I know, they just get worse. The second question is, how come we say Jesus' mother name and wish people a Merry Christmas? And the answer is because wishing a Joseph Christmas makes no sense. And I made these up for today, so you got to hear this last one. Why don't they call small portions of Christmas gift box cheddars baby cheeses? I've been laughing about that all week. And the answer is they aren't good enough. On my day off at SIBS, I actually wrote down over 40 Christmas pun ideas, so be thankful that you got less than a 15th of what could have been. I am very happy to announce that my wife Nancy and our two daughters Tristan and Forrest are here today. And you can express pity to them later, as they may end up hearing all 40-something puns before they fly home. Now, some of you, especially them, since they are trapped in a house with me, might think that is evil, which is the most jolting way I can think of to bring up an elephant in the room at Christmas. Evil, real evil, not pun evil. Evil is jolting, it's troubling. And I don't think it will ruin the Christmas story for anyone when I disclose the good news, what I've been saying all Advent, that evil doesn't win in our Christmas stories. Love wins. Love wins in the Christmas stories. And the promise in the stories, actually the good news in all of the Gospels, is that whether evil's present or not, love can win in each moment. That good news is a truth that we can bank on. It's also true that the first Christmas came and Jesus showed up and lived to be an adult and died and was resurrected to save humanity, yet evil still remains in the world. Real evil, what the theological dictionary defines as that which opposes the will of God. Evil is, in essence, an intentional turning from where God calls us. And in order to understand Christmas and its good news, we have to appreciate that there is evil in the story and its source. And some try to blame it on a lesser deity named Satan or the devil. As monotheists, though, Christians are supposed to believe in one God. One God. And that means we understand that there are no other deities, lesser or otherwise. No one has to agree with me. But logically, this means that Satan as a supernatural being cannot exist. And if that's true, where does evil come from? And let me answer that question with another question. If we remove humans from creation, would there be evil? Think about it. If we removed humans from creation, would there still be evil? It may be convenient to pass the blame to some deity named Satan, but the truth is that evil rises up in humanity. It's a sobering thought. We tend to focus on good at Christmas, which I think is wonderful, but there's a lot of evil that has to be overpowered to get to that wonderful goodness in those stories. Love wins in the Christmas stories in the Bible, and what love wins over is the evil that's lurking in those stories. Christmas is ultimately about choices, human choices. It's the same choices humans have had and always will have. We get to choose good or choose evil. Do as Caesar and the Herods of the world require and compel or want, or do as God requires, compels, or wants. It's not just the Christmas story that considers this choice. The very first Bible story of humankind has in it that once humans are created, the choice of good and evil comes into play. Adam and Eve eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and they, humans, learn that there are these two choices. And the Hebrew word for good in Genesis is tov, and it means welfare, benefit, good. And the Hebrew word for evil is ra, and it means misery and injury, brokenness, dysfunction, and wickedness, evil, good or evil. The whole of the Bible is about those two human choices, including the Christmas story. The fruit's been eaten. We know good. We know evil. That fruit was picked at the start, but we still get to pick which to do in each moment of our existence. This is a choice that's about doing. It's about acting toward good or acting toward evil. It's not about the factual accuracy of Bible stories. It's not even about belief. It's about action, doing. In each Bible story in our lives, we face that choice to do good or to do evil. And the good news is that even if we choose evil in the previous moment or moments, we can always choose good in this moment, in the next moment. Always. That choice is there for us. Every moment offers salvation and resurrection for a choice toward good, toward what we theists call God. The God we Christians know as love. Oftentimes we hear people say we need to do the will of God, and they often connect it to their belief system, so that God's will is nothing more than their will. Well, the definition of the will of God may surprise them and us. It's not what televangelists seem to think it is. The Theological Dictionary states it is the expression of God's desire or intention, and may be considered the highest good of all things, and is operative to defeat evil within the universe. Evil is harm. It's breaking. It's dysfunction. It's the opposite of welfare. It is, in a word, unloving. Good is benefit. It is welfare. It is the opposite of evil. It is, in a word, love. Love is God's will for all creation. It is the highest good. And we get to choose to be loving or not, to care for the well-being as God does or not. Once humans arrived, that choice arrived in the world. As I've mentioned a number of times in my short tenure so far, love means desire for well-being, and love is the primary characteristic of God. According to Scripture, when love, the desire for well-being, is played out to its fullest, then we have shalom, which is the Hebrew word we translate as peace. And I love that shalom means well-being. Love in action, played out to its fullest, brings peace, which is God's will, the point of the Bible and the very core of the Christmas story. Peace on earth, goodwill to all is God's choice. It's Jesus' choice. It's the loving choice. And we have that choice in each moment of our life, no matter what has happened before. And frankly, we like Christmas because folks are making the choice more and more in each moment for love, for peace on earth, goodwill to all at this time of year. It's our Christmas mantra. And so love is in the air, and the hope of peace hovers there too. We like Christmas because it's about light in the darkness. It's a story about choices of evil losing to choices of good. It's no accident that Christmas, the coming of the light to the world, is celebrated in the deepest, darkest time of the year. Just when it seems dark may win, love's light beams, and we have hope that the light of love will win in our stories and our moments too. It's my experience that the Christmas stories, indeed the whole of the Bible, are best understood as poetic symbols and sounds and words. See, the experience of the wonder of creation and love and the creation force that we call God cannot be described by mere mortal words. They simply can't. And neither can the salvific nature of any of those wonders. And so humans resort to poetry, to song and story, to parable and words. And the Christmas story is such poetry. And like good poetry, the truth of life is revealed in the telling. And so the Christmas stories portray the darkness of evil, that elephant in the room. Jesus' parents-to-be are treated terribly. The dominant culture and government of Rome and its local King Herod are so broken and so dysfunctional that their way intentionally causes peasants like the Holy Family to be expendable to them, to the culture. The powerful don't care for them or any other peasant's welfare. Indeed, the powerful thrive and maintain power and wealth based on the expendability, squeezing what they can out of the vast majority who have so little, and oppressing them, keep them down. The cultural elite also disrespect foreigners like the Magi, who are treated as strangers and not as equals as the Bible commands. And the elite have it set up so that they can even force a pregnant woman to travel by foot for 3 days to her husband's hometown so they can be taxed to further feed the elite's greed. And the cultural elite don't even provide basic care so that no woman has to give birth and no child has to be born in a stable and no newborn is put to sleep in an animal trough, a manger. In the story, the system is so evil, so in opposition to God's way of love, that Herod, the head of a local government, is allowed to hunt an infant and to carry out a scheme to kill countless children. There's so much evil evidence in the Christmas story descriptions of the act and inactions of the dysfunctional culture and government. The darkness of the night in the stories can be heard to symbolize this in Joseph's dream and in the shepherd's field and the night sky that the Magi travel under. But for all the darkness, symbolic and real evil, there is light. Thank God there is light. And that light calls us to be repulsed by the evil and to root for the good. We can feel it vibrating in the story every year, every time we read or hear those stories. I chose what I call John's nativity text as our Christmas Sunday reading. You've heard much of the other nativity texts already, and I call it John's nativity text because although it's not the birth of a Christ child text, it is John's story of Jesus' beginning. And Jesus, as John tells it, is the very Word of God, that Word that spoke creation into being, the power which first spoke and still speaks all creation into being. As we heard Larry read, John puts it like this: in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. And that Word, which God is still speaking, is life. And that life is the light of all people. Such a light shines in the darkness and is not overcome by it. Darkness cannot win. And even though John's story of Jesus' beginning is abstract, it nonetheless contains the same truth that Matthew and Luke's story contain, that light shines in the darkness. Goodness outshines evil. Love wins. This is what the Christmas story exemplifies, right? Think of all the lightness in the stories. It's everywhere. In the darkness of life, an angel of light appears to Mary, and she bears the light into the world. The light of the world. And pregnancy itself is a great light. Mary's brave acceptance of it is a light. God talks with her, and talks with Elizabeth, and her song that Mary sings is on behalf of the oppressed. It's a great light. Mary's pregnancy put Joseph in darkness at first, and when he decides to be a light himself in that darkness, then a light of an angel of the Lord appears. And Joseph's response is to bring more light into the situation and save Mary and their marriage and the child Jesus. And the Magi follow a light to Jesus, and then they act as lights, honoring and protecting him. And the lowly, expendable shepherds in the deep darkness of winter night experience the bright light of the heavenly host, and then in turn bring their lights to surround the baby Jesus. There are all these extraordinary, ordinary people who choose light, goodness over evil, and their choices, the lowly people's choices over power, and they defeat the evil choices of the power elite. The ultimate good news of the Christmas story is that ordinary people who are expendable and powerless to the cultural elite follow a way of doing things, and can still follow that defeats the evil choices of the elite. The ordinary, it turns out, have an extraordinary power. Love. Birth is given to a lowly peasant, nobody baby, so worthless to the elite that his execution is decreed by Herod. All the humans who surround that infant in the Christmas story are worthless to the cultural elite as well. But their choices of loving acts overpower all the evil choices by the supposedly more powerful elite. Love wins. Love is always in the air. This time of year for sure. And other times of year we get to make choices for good and for love as well. And we get to decide if we want to choose it. If we want to be one of the extraordinary, ordinary people who choose love. And when we do choose love, more good news arises. Peace on earth, goodwill to all becomes that much more of an experiential reality. Heaven breaks in. The good news is that Jesus showed us all when we choose love, good over evil, as often as possible, it makes all the difference. It's a power to be reckoned with. It's a power that cannot lose ever. All the good folks in the Christmas story do the loving things that Jesus teaches in his ministry as an adult. They choose good, love over evil, and consequently they save themselves and the world from a lesser way of being. We have the choice too in each moment of our lives. The Christmas stories demonstrate this and the power of making the choice for love. And may we all make that choice in as many moments as possible.